Hi, and welcome to OpenDevTalks 16. My name is Yannick, and I'm managing the business development team at High Mobility, and my co-host is today Anissa.
Hello, everyone. Nice to have you here today. I'm Anissa, customer success at High Mobility.
And in today's session, we will explain how you can identify a car brand, model, and equipment list using our new static data API. We have two sections that we're going to presenting today. In the first section, I will talk about the four key pillars of vehicle administration, and identifying cars by its VIN is a key part of this. And in the second section, we will talk about and demo the live static data API that will be shown by Anissa. But we will kick it off now and talk about vehicle administration. And this is one of the key concepts of fleet management. And even if you think about fleet management solutions, there are many things that need to be considered. And those concepts usually take place whenever a new car is added into a carpool, and actually before the car is actually handed over to the driver itself. So it's really important that the vehicle is added in a way that it can be managed throughout the whole life cycle of the car in the fleet. And the information regarding the vehicle details should always be accurate and complete all the time. So there are two key questions that should be considered. And the first question is, what kind of car should be managed? And in this case, I'm thinking about the model, about the equipment list of the vehicle, all the data points that usually do not change during the vehicle life cycle in the fleet. And then there's a second question that deals with the live data. So the key question is if the car is actually compatible with hardware-free live data transmission. And maybe you want to know about the car's utilization. Maybe you want to collect mileage data or get a health condition snapshot of the vehicle in a regular condition. Then this question is, of course, your key thing that needs to be answered. And if the car is eligible, so meaning compatible with the service, then you also need to manage the data transmission, meaning the start and end of the live data monitoring needs to be managed accordingly. And at High Mobility, we are providing one single access point to answer both questions, in fact. And now we are a platform that can work with both static car data, for example, the brand and model, and also the live data, which is our primary data coverage that we are offering. And this could be good for, again, mileage data or geolocation monitoring. So let's start with the first question. And whenever you have a big car park or you have a fleet software solution that deals with lots of vehicles, there can be a great diversity of car brands and models. And there are even very individual car capabilities that need to be respected. And in order to be fully operational, the most important requirement is to have a accurate overview of all the car brands, the models, and the subtype designations that you have in the fleet that you manage. And to get those information sorted, the vehicle identification number, or the VIN as we use it internally, can be used. And this is a 17-digit ID that you could, for example, find in the registration papers of the car, or some brands and OEMs even listed directly in the windscreen. And our partner for this is the Deutsche Automobil Treuhand. We call it DAT. It's a bit shorter. And it's one of the few trusted lookup service providers in Europe. And they offer professional access to static car data. And this also forms the basis then for their repair cost estimation tools and vehicle valuation services that are offered in the market. Referencing, for example, the German market, they have 99.8% coverage in terms of supported brands. And that means that there are 47 brands in total that you can utilize. So it's a bit different compared to the high mobility coverage. But of course, all the brands that we offer for the live data service are also covered for the static card data API. In fact, it's also always ensured that the service is provided based on direct OEM contracts. Same thing as it also applies to high mobility. And the great thing now is that the DET VIN lookup service can be used directly through the high mobility platform. And this, of course, lowers the barriers to consume both static car data and live vehicle data. So coming back to our first question, we have the question, what kind of car should be managed? And of course, there are many vehicle details, such as the equipment list that cannot be distinguished visually. So if you look at the car, you cannot really see if there's a certain equipment included. And this is where the VIN decoding comes in, and this helps really identifying not only the brand and exact model designation, but also many other data points that could be of value here. So if you think about corporate fleets or rental car companies, usually they want to filter their vehicle list according to the vehicle type. For example, someone is looking for a passenger car, some other parties could look more for a light commercial vehicle. Then this is an information point that you can expect, which is coming as a result from the VIN decoding process. Or there could even be some drivers that like to get a certain performance of the vehicle, then this can be filtered, of course, as well. Some drivers might even ask for specific features, such as all-wheel drive capabilities, rear-facing cameras, maybe heated seats, or a certain number of USB outlets. All of this can be requested through the static car data API that is offered by DAT, and Anissa will demo in a few minutes how that works in practice and how you can use it via the high mobility platform itself. So as soon as you have considered all the static car data items, you might want to add additional information such as the upcoming services, or you want to automate the accident management process throughout the vehicle life cycle in your fleet. Then you, of course, have to consider using live vehicle data. And for this, High Mobility provides a list of models that can offer live data without attaching additional hardware. We have a list of models in our documentation, but some brands provide the required connectivity features only as part of their special equipment, which we have already discussed before. The thing is that the naming conventions can be quite different when it comes to certain manufacturers, and there might be also some packages, so it's not might not be completely clear if the vehicle is capable of providing such live information or not. But we have a separate endpoint that we have already introduced in one of the previous OpenDevTalks, which is our vehicle eligibility check API, which you can use in order to return a secure and trusted result in terms of the eligibility. So you can just pass in the VIN and the brand, and then you receive either a true or false result. And if the vehicle eligibility check says true in the end, you can be sure that this vehicle can also be connected through our service. And this is then the last step that you need to perform. So you need to prepare the vehicle in a way that it can transmit live data. And OEMs usually send an over-the-air update or configuration update to the vehicle, which, for example, also includes the list of selected data points. And to trigger this update, you again need to use the vehicle identification number and the brand name. And once you have initiated that, the vehicle will first go into a pending state on our platform. And this means that this is the point in time that you're waiting for the update to be installed in the vehicle itself. So some cars can configure that more or less immediately or in a matter of seconds or minutes, while other OEMs require the vehicle to be actively used, and only then the vehicle is able to get an internet connection going and install the update accordingly. But once that has been performed, the vehicle will be listed as approved in our platform, and the data can be consumed using pull or push mechanisms that we have already highlighted in also previous OpenDevTalks. And whenever a car is sold or is leaving your fleet or your system for a certain reason, then you should pass in the VIN again to another endpoint in order to revoke access to the vehicle. So you really want to make sure that you don't receive additional data when you don't have the car not any longer within your fleet. So now you know all the most important parts of the vehicle administration process. You have learned how to identify the vehicle details. We have talked about the eligibility check and how you can manage the beginning and end of the live data transmission. And in order to use the vehicle identification using the VIN number, a DAT contract is required. And the same is also true for the vehicle eligibility check. But since this is associated with live data, it's the high mobility contract that is required in the end. And only if you have those documents available, we will be able to offer you the credentials that can be used for the productive environment. But in the beginning, you can, of course, also rely on so-called virtual VINs, which are always free of charge and are very good for testing. And I think this is the perfect point in time to hand it over to Anissa to really demo the new static car data integration that we have on our platform.
Perfect. Thanks a lot, Yannick. Yes, I will directly jump into our dedicated documentation. So for that purpose, I will go into our technical documentation. As you can see here, we have here the documentation related to our new vehicle data API, which correspond to live data, as Yannick mentioned. And for the purpose of getting access to the static data API itself, we have integrated. You will need to have a productive app container. So you will need to have productive credentials. The static data API is available only in production as of today. So for that, you will need to have an agreement with DAT, and when this would be done, you should receive from DAT the following credentials. With help of these credentials, we will be able to enable for you the static API directly from your live app container. So everything will be part of one platform and will come from both live data platform and static platform. So the idea and the first step here would be to enable that for you. And as you can see, for each lookup or each time you would call this static API, which we assume you would do it in a not that frequently because you will have the same information from the vehicle, from each VIN. In this case, you will be billed directly by DAT. And when it comes to live data, this is of course another approach. You will have an agreement with High Mobility and also have the access to the brand we do provide for live data. So in this case, the first step, as you can see, to use the API itself would be to create an access token. So the idea here is pretty much very analog and exactly the same as with live data. So if you already work with live data today in production with real vehicle, or if you already experienced or tested our API with our sandbox, you might be already very familiar with this step. So it's very exactly the same. The only thing is that you would be able to use this endpoint, which is very dedicated to static data. And as you can see, this API, this endpoint, will only require one VIN. So that's the only thing you would require here. And you will benefit from all the brands that DAT is also providing. And when it comes to live data, you will also be able to work the exact same way as described here. So in order to get the access token, you will need the productive credentials themselves. You will need a set of client ID and client secret as part of the OAuth framework. So in this case, I would recommend to rely on our former OpenDevTalk we have hosted a while ago, where we introduced the vehicle data API, and which describes all the steps in order to set up your Postman to get access to our full collection, and also the steps, the authorization step using the client ID and client secret. So I highly recommend to watch this video, this tutorial. And this would look like this. So if I open my Postman, you can see here that I have the fleet collection. So this is the part that Yannick already mentioned. You have here the fleet clearance API and endpoint in order to initiate the vehicle activation for live data. So this is really the live data part. Here you have the vehicle status API, which enable you to get data, live data from your VIN, from your vehicle. And we have here the eligibility API, which enable you to identify whether a vehicle is compatible with a hardware-free telematic. So this is pretty much the part that we already provide today for live data. And complementary to this, we have now introduced the vehicle static API, which is a GET in this case. And as you can see, this will be using the exact same framework and the exact same way of using the live data API as well. In this case, I have here test VIN, which is a VIN that you can we will provide to you that you can use for free in order to get already a response from the static API itself. So I will now authenticate and generate an access token, again, exactly the same as you would do with live data. So in this case, I will go here on the authorization part. It will take in consideration the client ID and client secret, which you can always find from your app container. So as mentioned, here we are working in production. So if you go back to our platform, you might already be familiar with our platform here. So here I'm by default on the build tab, and which corresponds to the sandbox environment, the test environment. But here again, we are working on a productive level. So in this case, I will be going on the live data tab, and this is where you will have an app container with productive credentials. And this is where I can find the OAuth client ID and client secret, which I will be needing in this time. So the authorization, again, is exactly the same as live data. So I will here initiate this and have now 5 minutes long-lived access token. And with this one access token, I can work with all the endpoints we have been provided so far for live data, but also the vehicle static API. So I will now send a request on this test VIN, and as you can see, I'm already getting the response and the vehicle information complementary, which can be very useful for your business. So I will start from the bottom. Here you can have the information that Yannick already mentioned, such as the brand, the model of the vehicle. Here in this example, we have a clue that this vehicle might have some premium features as part of the business line submodel. Here, if I go a bit more in detail in what we can see, I can find the transmission type here. So this would be a manual transmission type of vehicle. In this case, if I check as well, here I can also see the engine performance of this specific vehicle. And if I continue, I can even see what can be part of this business package specifically. So I can even see what are the premium features. Maybe some customers are interested in seeing that this vehicle is equipped with a head-up display, has a parking assistance as well there. So this really can indicate your customer as well. Here as another example that this car has 5 doors, so some customers would be more interested in this. And this could really be beneficial for rental companies, for any fleet management companies who are willing to provide way more information, extended information from the vehicle anytime. So this is really, as you can see, a very easy to use API. And in the future, we will be also extending this API with further information we can get from DAT.